There is no election in San Francisco for Congress if you look at the TV. Can you imagine that? These TV stations have to be shut down and taken over by the working people. This is democracy. This is democracy. Now, we brought up in the San Francisco Labor Council those supporters of Cindy and others who want a democratic debate and discussion. I mean, is this so radical to have a debate among the congressional candidates? I mean, how radical can you get? Radical. This is, and Mike Casey, who's the president of the San Francisco Labor Council and the local too, he said it would be indulgent on the part of the Labor Council to call for a debate with Cindy. He said it would a Democratic debate. He said it'd be indulgent because Cindy has to spend her time going around the country and collecting millions of dollars for Obama. Nancy. That's what Mike Casey said. In other words, to the working people of San Francisco who are entitled and have a right to a debate, we can't have a debate because Nancy has to collect millions of dollars for Obama. What kind of democracy are we talking about in this country? What kind of democracy? And that's our union leadership in San Francisco. It's too indulgent. Now, what we have to look at also with the media is the situation of newspapers in this country. Because, you know, right now in capitalism, there's no business plan for newspapers and journalists anymore. That thousands of journalists have been laid off. All the newspapers in this country are closing down. They're outsourcing. It's the virtual newspaper. So one of the reasons we're not getting coverage is there aren't any reporters anymore. That's a fact. They buy out, they lay off. There aren't any newspaper reporters left. We have to say this destruction, this monopoly capitalism and the destruction of our country is the destruction of news and information. They don't want people to have news. They don't want to have investigative stories. One of the stories that we've been covering is the case of David Bell. And there's going to be an article coming out in the Sacramento News and Review this Thursday about David Bell. He was a worker, a science technician, a technician at AgriQuest, which is owned by Pam Marone in Davis, California. She came from Monsanto, and she was in charge of their pesticide division. And what they were doing is using genetic engineering to develop pesticides. And they'd bring in fungus and bacteria from all over the world illegally in suitcases. No regulation of that. And then they were trying to develop genetically engineer these pesticides. Now, they didn't tell him that these things were dangerous. They didn't tell him that he could be contaminated, and he was contaminated. He got fungus and bacteria in his body from patented material at this company. And he tried to get health care. And this is the story of what's going on in this country. He tried to get health care. He tried to get workers' comp. They said, it didn't happen here. Didn't happen at this company. It happened someplace else. So he is without health care. The Social Security has to take care of him. He's fighting for health care. He's been contaminated in this AgriQuest company. And we couldn't get Sacramento Bee, any TV, any newspaper to cover this. You'd think that this would be a story in the biotech industry, but it just so happens that Sacramento Bee, the University of California Davis Regents, the monopoly, don't want this story out because they make money off this. They've got copyrights. They own this material. They're not interested in having oversight and regulation of the biotech industry. Let the owners do that. That's what they're saying. Now, I want to get down to what that means for working people in California, because you would think that OSHA, which is supposed to cover working people in California, would cover it. No. In fact, OSHA has eliminated all the doctors in California. Can you imagine that? OSHA, the agency to cover workers, injured workers, has eliminated all the doctors. No more doctors. The last one was Larry Rose, and they got rid of him. They tried to get rid of him under Davis, a Democrat, and when he retired, they removed him, his job completely. We tried to bring this up to the California AFL-CIO, and this is the problem. It's not a story for them. No press release, no announcement, no nothing. In other words, they get rid of all the doctors, and the unions in the state of California don't even mention it to working people, that we need doctors when workers get sick on the site. We need somebody who has the science, who has the knowledge to understand what people get. It's not an issue. Now, we have to change this situation, and the AFL-CIO and Change to Win, the two major union federations, unfortunately, are hoping that Obama saves them and saves us. And they're going to give $300 million of our money to these Democrats to help us, supposedly. And they're spending more money sending people for Obama than they spent to send workers to strike, to support strikes. There's struggles going on all over this country. They don't raise money to send workers to support these strikes, but they're sending them to support the Democrats and Obama. We have to say that we need a new strategy, a new priority. Nancy Pelosi has said the party's over. You know when she said that? After she passed the bill of $700 billion for the bank. She said the party's over. And Obama yesterday actually said the party's not over because AIG is still partying. These companies are still partying. So she's even being called a liar by Obama. That's what's happened in San Francisco. She's lied to the people, but there's no coverage of that in the media in San Francisco. We need, and next year will be the 75th anniversary of the San Francisco general strike that shut down San Francisco, and we're going to have a commemoration during Labor Fest. The fact of the matter is, the working people in this country have the power to close down this country. They have the power to shut this country down and take the power. We have the power in this country, and workers in other countries have the power. So one of the reasons we have Labor Fest is to commemorate that and to understand it's still there. The working people do have the power, and we can challenge the media. We can control the media. Workers are in these stations. Workers are in the radio stations. They're beaten down. In fact, I think they're still fighting for a contract at KQED. But these workers are under attack. We need to build a movement for workers' democracy, workers' free speech. We need to municipalize broadband and get rid of the telecom companies so everybody has open media. They're afraid of that. They don't want to municipalize broadband because then you don't need Comcast. You don't need AOL. You can do it through a municipal broadband agency. We have to, in San Francisco, the Community Television Corporation, Community Access, they're trying to get rid of, and unfortunately it's been corporatized. Also, we have a problem with KPFA, and that's part of our media, which represents the community. And they called in the police to beat a programmer, and they said it's not news. I don't know, when you call in police to a radio station, is that news? Is that news? And a black programmer gets beaten up and that's not news? Who would say that that's not news? What kind of journalist is that? And they tried to block even a video of that event. They refused to recognize the unpaid staff organization, the representative of the staff, the unpaid staff at the station. I call that union busting. Now, what do we need? We need to build a mass movement. And Cindy is speaking out as part of that movement to create a new society. This is also the 40th anniversary of the San Francisco the San Francisco State Strike, which I was in 1968. And one of the things about that strike in San Francisco is it involved the youth in San Francisco. It involved young people who want a future. Because what's happening in this country is that they privatized the universities. Working class kids can't afford to go to the college anymore. It costs thousands of dollars. You go bankrupt. You have to go into debt. We need a mass movement of students, of workers, to take over the universities, to demand that the rich, the billionaires, pay for the universities. That is not going to happen. That's not going to happen through the Democrats who are protecting the billionaires like they're doing in Washington. They're protecting the crooks and the criminals and the gangsters. They're saying, let's use our tax money to give to them. I say they belong in jail. That's where they belong. And we need, in this country, within the labor movement and the unions, to educate them about the real history of the unions.
That's right.
Because that's been censored out. You would think that people are just hopeless and helpless. They can't do anything. They can't fight. Bullshit. Bullshit. We have to get the truth out, and we have to organize for power. That's how we're going to win and how we're going to take back this country. Thank you.
Steve Zeltzer, thank you very much.